And then the second question revolves around online learning. So the question that was presented to us is, how do I keep my motivation up, and what are some ways to manage anxiety related to online learning, such as test anxiety, stress about deadlines, and management of academic stress?
Yeah, so this is a common topic that comes up a lot in my work with students. Since the pandemic started, some of the common things I've heard are, people have talked about having a hard time keeping up with work because they don't have the typical study group that they have, or just being able to talk with people in the same class about, what it is that's going on, or it's harder to talk about and can stay connected, or people may be having a hard time keeping up with their work and feeling motivated because they're home, and that home environment is just not the same as like that one study spot on campus that's been really helpful. That's been a constant good environment for people to study in. And then another thing that I've heard people talk about is that kind of seeing maybe people in the class submit their assignments on Canvas way before they do, or like the deadlines. And it can make people feel like, oh, like, am I falling behind, and I need to really stay motivated and catch up and things like that. You're really not alone. And the really hard part about the pandemic is that this disconnectedness creates it really makes it challenging for us to gauge where we are in relation to other people, because we're not connected. And it can really, in that same vein, it can really impact our motivation, because you're not able to engage in the materials and those around you in the same way as like in person. And so feeling really feeling disconnected can impact your level of motivation, and your perception of like kind of the difficulty level of the tasks, as well as your progress any certain given course relative to others, can also be impacted, because your normal markers are just not there anymore. You're not able to really just kind of constantly be able to chat with people in your class and see kind of where everybody is, and things like that. And let alone, this is just a new way of learning that you likely haven't had a whole lot of experience or practice in. And so there's a lot to adjust to and adapt to. And so one of the best ways one of the ways that I recommend people consider is that work towards kind of having your anxiety and stress level to a more manageable level, by asking yourself what it is that you need. What are some of the needs that have not been met, that are typically met, that really help you stay motivated? So for example, that could be thinking of creative ways to get together a study group. If it's not in a traditional sense, maybe it's just like kind of a couple of friends who are kind of also doing online learning and getting together and studying together over Zoom. And can you rearrange your home space to make it a little bit more conducive to studying, or taking longer breaks to regroup and reground yourself in between study sessions, because Zoom can be really exhausting. Just as an example, once your stress is at a more manageable level, stress can be a really good thing in boosting your adrenaline and sharpening your awareness and helping keep you alert and focused and motivated. So stress can serve a really good purpose in that sense. And so if you're still kind of finding that in the moment it's really hard to manage that stress when you're studying, it's really hard to get into it, here are some tips to consider. Deep breathing can be really centering and help manage even just kind of some of your physiological responses to stress, like increased heart rate and shallow breathing. And so kind of focusing your breathing can really help bring some of those physiological responses down. Oftentimes when we're feeling stressed about like academic work, a lot of times we kind of might think a lot about like, what if I fail? What if I don't do well? And having all of these thoughts. Maybe take some time to rehearse, to think about a little bit about what it would be like to succeed and, to get that really good grade on a test or on a paper, whatever that might be, instead of failing, to kind of boost some of that kind of sense of confidence and to really help you be more engaged in that way. And then sometimes like people feel like, oh, I'm procrastinating too much. I'm not really kind of meeting my goals. I'm not managing my time very well. Procrastination is inevitable. Whenever we're feeling stressed and trying to work on things that feel really overwhelming, um, it's helpful to take breaks, and being productive and active in other things can really boost your overall motivation level. So all of that time spent on breaks or doing other things may not be as useless or kind of a waste of time as you might think. And then finally, consider breaking up your work into more manageable chunks. Maybe consider starting your work session with simpler and easier to get, tasks that are easier to get into, to foster a sense of confidence and competence before kind of diving into things that are a little bit harder and take more time. And so I don't know, Sarah, for you, like, what are some of the things that kind of help keep your motivation up?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm living at home. I have siblings, and it can be very distracting. So I have an app, and it's literally just a white noise app. I play like air conditioner on it, and I play it when I'm in class or trying to study, just to drown out all of the other noises. And that seems to really help me concentrate, and I lose a lot of the anxiety that surrounds getting things done on time or completing my assignments well because I'm distracted. And then going along with the deep breathing exercise, I look up like 5-minute yoga stretches or 5-minute meditation videos on YouTube that I do in between classes, or if I'm starting to find myself really tired in the middle of an assignment. And that kind of just brings my focus back to where it needs to be in order to be efficient.
Yeah, I really love that, just because, like this idea of kind of self-care and managing your anxiety really doesn't have to be anything big and really super time consuming. Even something like a 5-minute break in between, doing some yoga and breathing can do a lot for sure. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. Yeah.